Hello everyone, my name is Christian, welcome back. It is a new year, it's the same me. I love video games. Loved? Maybe? That's why we're here. I tried making this video at least 6 times, probably more than that, probably double. But I played a lot of games last year, and I keep track of all the games I beat in a notes app on my phone I have since like 2017, where I just write the game I beat, give it a score, because it's fun for me. I like tracking things. I like seeing what I can get done. I in like 2018, 2019, I turned it into a game. Like, oh, could I beat what I did last year? And then 2020 happened, and then last year happened, which were awful years for many, myself included, in the world, but great years for me getting through video games. Where in 2021, I beat 63 games, and unless somebody hires me to do this professionally in some capacity, I will probably never play as many or more games in 1 year than I did in 2021. And I think it broke me because I'm entering 2022 in an unhinged state of mind for video game takes where nothing is sacred. I am tired of the discourse, and I have a very high standard of, I know what my tastes are now, and it's because of some of the games I played this year. So I figured we'd run through them for fun, and I'd give some thoughts on each one. So here we go. I started the year 8 out of 10 given to Sam & Max Hit the Road. Streamed that, twitch.tv/chunty2, which is back, by the way. Kind of. I'm getting into regular streams again at the end of the month, but yeah, Sam & Max was awesome. I loved that game. That was really fun. Well written. I like a good adventure game. LucasArts. Fun vibes. Detectives. Freelance police. Like, it was cool. Crash 4, 8.5. That's fair. It was fine. Crash 2 better. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. That was 3 years in the making for a 100% run. 9.5 out of 10. It would be a 10 if it was 3D, because 3D DK is where I grit my teeth, where I became a fan with the one 3D Donkey Kong game. But Tropical Freeze is excellent. One of the best 2D platformers ever. Super Mario Bros. 3, my first time playing through that fully, I gave that an 8? Which it can keep, because it's like the one good NES game. Yeah, that's fine. Monkey Island, 6.5. I was hoping to recapture the Sam & Max highs on that stream. And I love pirates, but some of the humor in that was not it. Like, I liked the sword play is dialogue thing. That was fun. But some of the jokes, I was like, was this okay at the time even? Like, some of this was just not good. The governess, though, I thought she was cool. I liked her. Shadow of the Colossus. Oh, excuse me. Spyro Year of the Dragon in the Remake trilogy. 100% into that. That's a platinum, baby. 8 out of 10. Used to be my favorite Spyro game. Ripto has now taken that title. Too many mini games in that one, but it's good. I enjoyed it. Shadow of the Colossus by Blue Point, the remake. I gave a 9. Honestly, I think on my Twitter thread I gave it a 9.5, if my memory is correct. But like, that's the one that's haunted me this entire year. That's an 8. I'm changing that. I'm sorry, I've become one of the people that think the PS2 version or PS3 remaster is better than the remake. I'm sorry. It's a different vibe. I hate to be that guy, but it is a different vibe. And that game, what is it beside vibe? That's why I feel sad in the end. Then we get to something interesting, being Resident Evil 2 Remake, Claire's Run, the first of many RE2 runs this year. Did not give it a score. We gave it a score eventually because I played it multiple times last year. That's probably the best game ever made. Next up is Sad, A King's Tale Final Fantasy 15. I gave a 7 out of 10. And why it's sad is because I, earlier this year, planned out a very intricate process where I would play the comprehensive experience of Final Fantasy 15, including the movie, the anime, and then read the book. I was going to go all in on 15. This is the only 15 game that is on this list, which is a bummer because I did buy all the DLC for 15. 15 was my game of the year 2016, despite not beating it. I love it so much. But I was like 40 hours in, really loving my time with it. I was about to hit the chapter where you have to like go on the boat to go to the next area of the map. And they're like, hey, you can't come back here for a while. And then the internet was like, oh, right where you are, the next chapter sucks, but they're fixing it. So I was like, okay, I'll wait for them to fix it. And then they're like, okay, we're going to fix it. It's fixed, but we're also releasing DLC, which takes place before where you are. So I was like, okay, I'll wait for the DLC. And now we're here. I still want to play 15. I love that game to death, but just it did not happen last year. After that, though, we get into something juicy. Resident Evil 2 again. Then it was another Claire run. I think I streamed that. Then we did Metal Gear Solid, which again, there's going to be a lot of Metal Gear Solid on here because on this channel for the Long Play Club, I played through the entire Metal Gear Solid franchise with Omar, Kevin, and Jack. Metal Gear Solid 1, I gave it 8.5. I was a coward. That's a 10 out of 10. It's my favorite one out of all of them. The boss fights are good. Controls are good. Long cutscenes are good. So yeah, I'm changing that to a 10. 8.5. Jesus. What are they talking me into on that show? Okay, here's another one. I was a coward. I gave this a 9 out of 10. It's a 10. No More Heroes. No More Heroes was life-changing for me. I think that game is genius. I think No More Heroes is a very rare example of a game that knows what it is and uses the form of being a video game to tell a story, like through mechanics and gameplay in a way that just works with the world and the setting. Because on the surface, yes, it's a jank-looking Wii game from probably 2008. Motion controls were a highlight. You have a laser sword, and you kill people. And in between killing people, you go around this empty open world with ugly-looking things in it to do maybe 4 side activities. But No More Heroes is so freaking smart because I think it's commenting on like social mobility, because the entire story is you're this assassin, or you're this dude who likes anime and you want to be an assassin because you got nothing better to do. You live out of a motel, and to become a better assassin, become the number 1 ranked assassin in the world to get the benefits of being number 1, you have to go kill people and take their spot. And to get there, you have to work like very, very dirty jobs. Like you have to just mow lawns, you have to deliver packages to places, you have to perform some hits, which, hey, you're an assassin. But like, it's so strange because mechanically it controls fine. Combat is great, but like, I don't know, something about gritting your teeth on, again, dirty jobs that are like very, very low barrier jobs to be able to afford the opportunity to get yourself killed to maybe get better and move up the ranks is just a genius story. And mechanically it all works incredibly well, and it is now one of my favorite games of all time. Right next to that, 9.5 out of 10, Super Mario 64. It'd be a 10 if not for that rainbow level. Then I played The Legend of Zelda 1 on the NES, well, on the Switch NES app. That's a 7. I respect it, but man, that game is essential to play with a guide. If I did not have a guide, or rewind for that matter, that would be like a 4. No, that'd be like a 5. Because like it's got the good music. It's got some interesting dungeons for the time, I guess. But yeah, it's just Zelda 1. Can we just move on from Zelda 1? I'm 24 years old. I wasn't there for it. I get it. Can we just move on, please? Please. Resident Evil 2 Remake, Claire, S rank, again, incredible game. Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. I gave it 6.5, so I gave it a lesser score than Zelda 1, but I respect Zelda 2 more. Zelda 2 has ideas. It surprised the hell out of me that it's basically, it seems like Shovel Knight was basically just making Zelda 2. And I know people say Shovel Knight is a concoction of different influences from older games of this era, but specifically Zelda 2 with like the towns and some of the RPG-ish mechanics, like Zelda 2 had some really cool ideas that I appreciated. And I would enjoy a remake of, if I'm being real. Metal Gear Solid 2 is next up, 10 out of 10. Again, similar to No More Heroes, that game knows what its game is. It knows what it's trying to do, what it's trying to say. How it says it is something you can only do in a video game. And between No More Heroes and MGS2, these are two games that probably are the ones that broke me this year, if I'm being honest. Mainly Metal Gear Solid 2. Where MGS2 is a game from, 2002, I think, 2001, on the PlayStation 2. Looks great, plays great, great performances. Just masterfully weaving in every single facet of what it's trying to be in terms of a sequel to Metal Gear Solid 1. This revolutionary idea of what the future could be, predicting the internet and like meme culture kind of in 2002. But if this was anything other than a video game, it would probably suck. So like, that's the thing. That's the thing that No More Heroes and Metal Gear did for me this year, where I feel like my standard has reached a point where if a video game is trying to be deep about something, use your form to do it. Otherwise, I feel like just do literally anything else that is cheaper to make and probably more of a safer bet. Which, like, hey, there's a time and a place, right? Gotham Knights is a game I'm looking forward to this year. Gotham Knights is not going to use its form to tell a gripping story that could not be told on TV or in a movie or an anime, right? I'm not saying that there's only this type of game and then everything else, but I kind of have reached a point where it's either very subtle storytelling I'm into or in ridiculously over the top bonkers, which is Metal Gear Solid and Kingdom Hearts and No More Heroes. I followed up MGS2 by completing Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which was a stream game. That's an 8. I think specifically with this one and the next one, Chrono Trigger, which is a 10. Easy 10, by the way. I think it was a case of streaming these games made me not able to form an emotional attachment to them, which is weird. I thought streaming would make them more memorable for me. And while I think I still have strong memories of both these games, like Chrono is a flawless video game, but I kind of feel nothing towards it in a way. Like, it's a really great game and I enjoyed my time with it. Masterpiece even. But like, I don't think it's one I'd get emotional over. But to be fair, I think Metal Gear Solid 2 is also a masterpiece that I didn't get emotional over. KOTOR as well. KOTOR's great. It's a solid Star Wars game. One of the best. But now this remake is like, we're not doing turn-based. Sorry. God of War Combat. Which is a topic for a different day. Snake Eater's a 7. Sorry. Resident Evil 2 playthrough. Leon. Tomb Raider 2013 is a game I never played. I gave it an 8.5. This surprised me because outside of the story not being great, which like it's not that, I feel like that's a rough thing to say because I don't even think I'd say the story in Uncharted is great, which is where Tomb Raider's reboot gets a lot of its inspiration. Uncharted's story is fine. It's not deep. It's not going for anything besides just being a fun adventure. But its characters are really great. And while I really liked Lara in this reboot, the story was very whatever, kind of forgettable. I remember the main overarching plot of it. But mechanically, I kind of prefer the approach Tomb Raider takes to exploring and feeling like an adventurer than Uncharted does, where combat I think is comparable. Stealth is way better in Tomb Raider, but exploring these environments, these mini arenas, looking for treasures, straight up finding tombs to explore and raiding them, it feels like I'm actually an adventure more than Uncharted ever did, where it's like, okay, Nathan Drake turned an extra corner and look, there was a coin on the ground. Okay, now go shoot another 50 people. Which, listen, again, not to hate on Uncharted. I love the Uncharted trilogy dearly. But Tomb Raider really surprised me, where I was very, very into the approach Tomb Raider took and what it learned from Uncharted. Zombie Army 4 is a 7. My friends convinced me to play it. It was free on Plus. Killed Zombie Hitler. Resident Evil 2 Leon Hardcore run. That was fun. And I think, actually... No, okay, we have one more of that. Well, this was a Resident Evil binge, kind of, because I did Leon Hardcore, then I played RE7 as a refresher. That's an 8. RE7's fantastic, but the boat onward, not great. It's fine. It drags a bit. Resident Evil Village, though, was one of the new games I played this year and beat and loved. 9.5. That was my second favorite game of 2021. It was my goatee for a while. But yeah, Resident Evil Village is incredible. Some of those moments are highlights that I don't think I've felt in other games for a while. Very iconic moment. As I was playing through House Beneviento, I was like, okay, this is going to be a thing that we remember for a while. After that, Metal Gear Solid 4, 8 out of 10. Game is simultaneously The Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. Fall Guys, platinum that. That's a platinum, baby! Fall Guys is an 8. I'll probably play a match of Fall Guys here or there. I'm really good at it, or I was at least when it came out. But I got the platinum this year, that felt good. Jak 3, 100% of that. That's a platinum, baby! 9 out of 10. Jak 3 was nice because of a couple of reasons. The PS4 version is not great, but it's still a very fun game. I love that it's basically Mad Max. I always preferred Jak 3 the most out of the trilogy as a kid, where now I think I lean more on Precursor Legacy, but Jak 3 is still fantastic. It was very cool to see the DNA of Uncharted in Jak 3, mainly because there were a lot of moments where it was like, run down this bridge as it's collapsing, and it felt like the end of Uncharted 2, so that was fun. And it made me miss the more pulpy, adventure-y, fun side of Naughty Dog, which, not saying their new games aren't fun, but I think there's a place for Naughty Dog to let loose and be a little crude and have some Looney Tunes wacky fun. And Jak and Daxter is that, you know? I miss it. I beat Mario 3D World. That was my first time playing that on Switch, 8.5. Marvel Superheroes was a very weird, strange experience. I gave it a 7.5. It's an arcadey PS1 Capcom fighting game that I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did. The story blew me away. You're going through levels and fighting bosses. You get to pick a character. I played a couple campaigns, I think, in a stream. Specifically, I remember playing Spider-Man. Some of the bosses had infinity gems you could get. Thanos was the final boss, which I didn't even realize Thanos was in other media besides comics before the last 5-10 years. Like, I knew he existed for a long time, just not outside of the comics. That was cool. And I remember the ending of Spider-Man's campaign being very weird. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, 9 out of 10. That's a platinum, maybe. Which is weird, because I'm not even the biggest Dragon Ball Z fan. I say is there's like a Vegeta right there. I like Dragon Ball Z. I'm a fan of it. I think it's got a fun vibe to that world. And Kakarot is a very satisfying game where by the end you're doing a lot of similar combos that you've been doing for the majority of the game, but man, does it feel good to land those combos. And just flying around. I think the great thing about Kakarot is it has that open world JRPG thing where in the overworld there's floating enemies, you encounter them, we get a transition to a battle arena. It's not turn-based, but you do have that transition. It's so nice because if you power level as Goku or anybody and you're just flying around the world, which does feel great, you could just fly through enemies, just destroy them and get some XP out of that. Very, very satisfying. Big fan of that. Resident Evil 2 Claire Hardcore Run. That's a platinum, baby. And I gave it a 10 out of 10. Flawless game. Love Resident Evil 2. Listen, Kingdom Hearts 2 is still the king, but RE2 gave it a run for its money. Katana Zero is an 8 out of 10. I knew there was a lot of hype behind it, and it was okay. I thought it was fine. It dragged a bit, I think, for what its hook was. Metroid Zero Mission surprised me. Played that over the course of a few nights before I went to bed. 9 out of 10. That was my first completion of a Metroid game. One of Nintendo's best. Halo Trilogy, 9, 9, 10. I feel bad because I misjudged Halo for a very long time, growing up PlayStation and Nintendo. I thought Halo was going to be super self-serious, bro-y, Mountain Dew and Doritos, dude. Like, it's not that in the slightest. Halo got a lot of respect from me. And, like, I had a feeling I'd like it also as a fan of Bungie because of Destiny. But Halo specifically, Halo has my respect because it is Microsoft's core IP. And I don't think any other of the three have something that much front and center that is that silly. Like, Halo is so silly. Halo is way sillier than I thought it would be. It's got great sci-fi. It's got great world building. Really cool set pieces. Very epic moments. Very good music. But, like, the characters, the way they interact with each other, the way they exist, is goofy in a way that I loved and did not expect. Like, yeah, like troopers super over the top, like screaming, dying in battle. Like very Aliens, which I know is the inspiration of Halo 1, but they kind of went beyond that in 2 and 3. To the point where 3, I think, is one of the best sequels in games, honestly. Especially as like a trilogy ender. Holy shit, that was real good. And I respect it because I look at Nintendo. Like, Mario is not silly. Mario is very serious. Mario has a exact expectation you get out of it. Zelda, not silly. Quirky, not silly. God of War, not silly. Last of Us, not silly. Uncharted's a little silly, but like in the way that you could call like the MCU silly, where it's like, yeah, people joke. But so does my brother. Donkey Kong Country 1 on the SNES, that's an 8. Avengers War for Wakanda. Avengers is a solid game. It's not the best game ever made, not the worst. That campaign, though, 7.5. Psychonauts, again, a game that kind of shook me this year. Psychonauts 1, I give a 10 out of 10. Because I love 3D platformers. Not only is it a really fun 3D platformer, it has like adventure game mechanics in it, which was just great for me last year, where I started the year playing adventure games. Which, like, no Nintendo platformer has ever done that, as far as I'm concerned and experienced, where you have some little puzzles to solve with items that you collect, adventure game style. Plus, the concept of Psychonauts, I think, is just so fascinating and, like, endlessly creative, where you're going into other people's minds, and that is the context for why you can have such radically different worlds, where they do all feel cohesive because of the art style and art direction, but the setting of everything, like one stage is like the 50s, like suburbia. One is a circus made of meat. One is this like groovy disco thing. It's such a great showcase of creativity. And it's very funny. I laughed a lot playing that game. Slightly disappointed by the VR experience, though. Rhombus of Ruin, I gave an 8. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is probably the greatest game I played last year. That's a 9.5. I'll probably turn around at some point and give it a 10. But, like, I think it's my favorite From Software game. Combat's just too good. I rode that high after finally beating it. And went to Devil May Cry 1. Glad I experienced it. 9.5. Excellent game. I tried playing Devil May Cry 2 and dropped it very fast, so. First one is good, though. Metroid, Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion, both 9s. Again, real great. I wish I played them sooner. Superliminal, 7.5. A game that I was hoping was going to give me Portal vibes, because they were trying real hard with, like, test courses with, like, walls falling apart, and you could see the shady background of what's going on here, but it kind of led to nothing. So that was a bit disappointing. And then in the end, they kind of wrap it all together with like, we're so proud of you. Look at what you did. You completed something. That means you tried. People could have given up and walked away from this 2-hour game, but you didn't. You got some puzzles done. Which, like, it came together good enough where I was like, okay, that was solid. But they were losing me. If it was not that short, I probably would have dropped it. Metroid Dread 9.5. That's my goatee. I played it twice back to back. I speed ran hard mode. That game is excellent. Because, like, I'll talk about this more on the goatee thing I do with Kevin, but Dread impressed the hell out of me where I was able to get an experience out of a 2D game I've never had before where it felt cinematic because you have this 2D plane that is so consistent throughout the game, and the way that it will seamlessly transition to cutscenes and like slightly canter the angle to just make it feel cinematic and then like get close-ups from there is excellent. It has one of my favorite moments of the year, which is just a character speaking. Boss fights, incredible. The finale, the last boss fight, is one of the best boss fights I've experienced in a non-From Software game in the last 5 to 10 years, maybe? Like, if I should make a best boss list, because, like, Mr. Freeze is on there, something from Bloodborne, Guardian Ape is probably on there, the final boss of Sekiro is on there. And then Ravenbeak. Ravenbeak would probably be in that top 5. Ravenbeak, I loved. Because the thing is, it keeps going. Ravenbeak keeps going to the point where I, on my first run of Metroid Dread, 100%ed it. So, in the end, I was on normal. I was like, okay, I got a stacked arsenal. I got full health. I have the endurance to survive this fight. But after completing it, I was like, I don't know how anybody could get to that fight without 100%ing the game and having all those resources. And then when I played it on hard mode, I didn't go for all the resources, so I was already making it harder for myself with the difficulty, and then by lessening my resources. And man, that fight is excellent. It's so good. And that's just like in terms of how long it goes and the pace of it, like the stages, the set pieces, the ripping of the wing, like, oh my god. Metroid Dread is my favorite Metroid game, so it's probably in my top 25. Monster Hunter Rise I finally beat. That's a 9. It's my favorite Monster Hunter so far out of the 2 I've played. Mario Tennis on the N64 is an 8. Got real good at that game. Put a lot of time into it. 12 minutes is a 3 out of 10. But like, I'm still glad I played it. You know? Because that game had the audacity. And I don't respect it in the slightest. But some of the puzzle solving and that loop early on was cryptic enough that I enjoyed it. And then something happens, like one of the puzzle things is something that I should have put the game down at, but I was like, it's only 4 hours. And then it got worse, story-wise. So that was rough. Halo 3 ODST, surprised me. That's an 8 out of 10. Cool jazz. I played Halo again, but co-op. Again, 9 out of 10, great. The next couple were just to inflate the numbers. Deer Simulator, that's a 6. Jank game. Exo 1 I liked. Exo 1 scared me, surprisingly. Exo 1 is a game where you're this, like, ball that you can alter gravity. It's like Tiny Wings, where you can, like, sink fast, build up speed on a hill, release the gravity, so you fly up, and then you can transition to a disc, like Arkham style, kind of, to, like, get that momentum. Mechanically, it's solid. It's real solid. And then they put this interesting story over it where, like, the ball is actually this spaceship. You're traveling between these planets trying to find this old spaceship that blew up. But what scared me about it is I have an intense fear of dark ocean water, the unknown of what is beneath the ocean. And a couple times, especially towards the end of the game, I'm shocked that I saw it through. You dive underwater a lot on foreign alien planets, and it is pitch black down there. There's one where you crash, and then you're just underwater, and you don't even see light above you. I was terrified. it affected me. But it's a fun game. So, solid. Then we did the Artful Escape, which, similar to 12 Minutes. 12 Minutes had good performances from Willem. Artful Escape, solid performances. It was interesting. Beautiful game also. And I like that the bosses are basically Simon Says. I think that's fun for a rhythm game like this. And I say that loosely because it's kind of just you walk and you press a couple buttons, which isn't a bad thing. I like some games that are like that. But with the Artful Escape, what I think is ironic is the story of this game. It's a very simple, straightforward coming-of-age story about this kid who's the nephew of the greatest folk singer of all time. And he is a musician himself. And this town that he grew up in and his uncle is from wants him to become the next coming of his uncle, right? Because his uncle died. And they're expecting him to, for this memorial concert, debut the next greatest folk album ever. But this kid wants to just be like a spacey David Bowie rock star. So you go through this space trippy journey, discovering yourself, defining your image, finding your sound. For a game so focused on music, I think it is very funny that my favorite song in the game was the folk song from the main menu. So it was a little hard to get into the resolution of like, yeah, this kid found himself in his sound, where I think genuinely the best song in that game is the main menu theme from his uncle, because I was listening to that thing for an hour before I started the game. I just left the menu screen up and worked on a few emails because it's a good song. Halo 4, 9 out of 10. That surprised me as well. Like it was solid for how much hate it gets. I like the Chief and Cortana stuff. It felt like a natural progression from the trilogy. It felt earned after the trilogy also. Halo 5 is a 7.5, which is like, it's not a bad game, but after a 9, a 9, a 10, and a 9, and an 8, like, it's Halo. It shouldn't just be the standard Call of Duty straightforward hallway shooter with some characters that I do not care about. Matrix Awakens tech demo, that's a woe out of 10. I beat Sekiro again, and that's a platinum, baby! 9.5. Last two games. Pokemon Shining Pearl, 8.5 out of 10. Pokemon Platinum or Soul Silver or just Fire Red might be my favorite Pokemon game. That's a TBD. But Shining Pearl was excited for. Enjoyed my time with it. I think it's a good remake. I like the art style. I kind of went on autopilot from like gyms 5 to 7 and 8. But the Elite Four was very challenging. And I only beat Cynthia by like a technicality. Like her Garchomp went down by a hail, which I did not plan for. That was not strategy, that was luck. And then SteamWorld Dig, a game that I heard a lot of hype for a long time. Gave it 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it. It was short. I like short games. So yeah, that was my year. That was my 63 games that broke me in 2021. Where my GOATY is Metroid Dread. My favorite game I played last year is probably Sekiro or Psychonauts or No More Heroes. And then in terms of refining my taste and realizing I don't have to have a take on everything, despite I just gave a take on everything I played, I know what I like now, which, if anything, will save me money moving forward and time. Because more recently, I've become aware of my taste specifically because of this list, to the point where if I'm not feeling something, I will drop it. I will never think about it. I will not talk about it. To the point where moving forward this year, there are 3 games I care about. Elden Ring, Gotham Knights because it's Batman, and Starfield. Because Breath of the Wild 2 is not coming out this year. Final Fantasy 16 is not coming out this year. Destiny 2 Witch Queen I'll count, I guess. But yeah, everything else, congrats, you made a big open world game with RPG mechanics. I played 1 million of those, and I am done. I'm finished. Unless you're Batman skinned, then I'll play one. So, yeah, that was my year. That was my 2021 lineup. So, overall, again, I will not do that again. I'm good. I got my fill. I made my record. So until I retire, I'm not going to retire. Who am I kidding? Until I get hired to do this professionally, I'm never going to beat that many games in a year again. But yeah, the lesson to learn here. What's the lesson to learn here? I was thinking about this. The lesson here is that gamer discourse is a poison. Hype cycles and the constant next thing. You beat this thing, you gotta go to a new one. You gotta go to a new one. New. Is so horrible. I hate this. It kind of killed my favorite hobby this year. Where I'm looking at this year and I am so stoked to not play so many things. Like Horizon. Horizon's a fine game. Horizon Zero Dawn is an 8. It's solid. It's a Far Cry game with a really cool setting, with a world that's kind of uninteresting to explore. But like it's solid. It is technically a good game. I'm not playing the sequel, and I can't wait to not play it and not talk about it. And everybody else who's excited for it, I hope you enjoy it. You're 30 hours with it and have a good time. I'll be playing Elden Ring, or sleeping, or I don't know, literally anything else. I think that's another thing too, because like being so entrenched in this discussion content culture for a long time, there is a pressure to feel like you have to play every new thing, talk about every new thing for the slight chance that somebody will listen to you and be like, you know what, I want to listen to you for the next thing. But why would I listen to you talk about this 10-year-old thing that I'm not going to play because I got this pretty new God of War to play? And I'm picking up PlayStation a lot. They're the ones that have new games this year announced. Like, these are just the things that come to mind. Starfield is not coming out this year either. I don't know who I'm kidding. But I don't know. I think there's something refreshing and good for people who are fans of this hobby to take a step back, not focus on the new hotness. And that's kind of my resolution this year for games. I want to spend more time on less things. I've beaten 2 games this year so far. It's January 9th right now. I beat Mario Bowser's Fury and Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. I'm working on a playthrough of Final Fantasy VII to finally beat it. I would like to play The World Ends With You. And then I'm kind of committing to a Kingdom Hearts series replay for the anniversary. But in the meantime, I have Elden Ring. I would like to try and get through Dark Souls. So it is a balance of, am I just going to be going game to game to game? Or is it going to be, I enjoy Melody of Memory, I beat it, it's a good feeling, but I want to continue enjoying it. So I'll play a song or two over and over again here or there. I'll hop into Fortnite with my friends, you know? Like, I get next gen is here, I get it's been a weird time for games, but like, God, there are still interesting topics and conversations to be had about things that are not brand new. Because look at last year, right? This is the last thing I'll end on. Look at 2021. There was a game that got multiple 10 out of 10s in Deathloop. I do not hear many people talking about Deathloop right now in January. That game came out in September. You know? Like, Metroid Dread had its 2 weeks. Outriders had its month. Returnal had a couple days, I think. I know that's Kevin's goatee. But, like, is that just how the hype cycle works? Because that's what it's felt like. That's what it's been. Towards the end of the PlayStation 4 generation, release-wise, it was next thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. And that is apparently what 2022 is supposed to be. But it's exhausting. It's very tiring. To the point where I'm kind of just going to take a step back. I'm playing what I'm interested in. I do not need to care about everything. I don't need to have an opinion on everything game-wise. And I'll just be able to enjoy the hobby again. So, if you're feeling in a similar way, maybe try what I'm doing. That might help. I don't know. But I would love to be making more videos and content this year. Really diving in deep to the things that I'm enjoying, the things that I've always enjoyed. That's something I would like to do with the channel this year beyond the typical podcast stuff or videos like this. Probably shorter. This is, wow, 40 minutes. Okay. But yeah, that's kind of it. I wanted to run through this. Like I said, tried doing this a handful of times. I had some tech problems. We got a new mic now, so that's fun. And yeah, this is the closure on 2021. This is the week of that, because we still have goatees to do with Kevin. But yeah, that's the year, baby. 2022. We'll do a general 2022 video. I got a Kingdom Hearts 2022 video I'm gonna record soon, but thank you for watching. That's me everywhere. Stay safe. Enjoy your week. See you later.